Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to talk about the old and new tactics to handle or resolve a trucking claim. I'm John Love with MCIF, and I'm here today with the other JL, or the original JL, we'll say, John Liberatore, who is a board member of MCIF. He is also chair of our claims curriculum committee and founder and president of Primacy Risk Services. So, John, welcome. Uh, this is not your only gig, the MCIF, although you would think the way we've got you working that, you might not even have a day job.
I do, but I so enjoy MCIEF. I years ago, a guy attended MCIEF and he called me from there and he said, "How come you're not out here?" And I said, "Where are you?" He said, "MCIEF." What in the heck is that? So I thank him all the time for introducing me to the organization. I love it.
I need to
Thank you.
thank him. I need to thank him. All
Yeah.
right, so we always jump right into it. Take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself and your family. I feel like we never give enough time for folks to get to know you.
Well, thank you. I'll make it brief. And some people will gulp. My wife and I have been married 34 years. That's not the gulping part. We've raised 8 children, eight, and we will not give any of them back. None are twins. We're not a blended family. I could go on and on. We're very, very, very fortunate. We have 7 grandchildren and 2 on the way. And we're fortunate also because our children and their children live nearby within 30, 40 minutes, just the way it worked out. Um, so yeah, so again, I couldn't do it without my tremendously supportive wife. That's no surprise. And we're just enjoying life one day at a time, like everybody else. So
That is absolutely awesome. I'm really quite envious of you. And send pictures. We'll post one on the
okay,
website next to this.
you know
Next to this.
it'll be landscape.
Well, yeah, it sure will be. It'll be portrait landscape. So, Primacy Risk Services, you do have a day job, and of
Yes,
course, obviously, trucking claims. You know
right.
them. This is your vocation and your passion.
Yes.
And although we always are talking, Lib, about the problems and the things that we need to do better, why don't we start off by, in your opinion, give us the definition of a well-handled claim, a well-handled claim.
Well, whatever kind of a claim it is, there's got to be a quick response. I had a claim manager that years ago said claims are not like mushrooms. They don't get better in dark, damp places. In other words, this is going back to the old days before computers. You had paper files. Get them out, let them breathe, get the sunlight on them, and work them. So responding is half the battle, sort of half the battle, and then work. And that doesn't have to be every day, but there's got to be an urgency. And my life is mostly, in trucking, it's what I deal with is BI claims and litigation. There's got to be an urgency right off the bat. And, we might get into more of that, but when a file is being worked, whether it's day 1, day 5, day 30, one year out, instead of kicking the can down the road, because it's easy to do that. It's very easy to do that and abdicate responsibility or make a token phone call to plaintiff counsel every 30, 60 days. That's not working a file. It just isn't. So
Well, there's nothing wrong with not working the file if it didn't cost us any money. But I guess the point is, you do you do lots of audits, lots of on-site visits looking at claims files.
yeah.
So I'm sure you've many stories there. But what is your approach when you go on site? What are you looking for?
Whether I'm auditing a motor carrier that self-administers or an insurance carrier file or a TPA, what I need to know from moment one, most important thing, is the response aspect again. when a claim comes in at 2 p.m, who looks at it? How is it handled? Conversely, if that same claim came in at 2 a.m, who handles it? Or do we wait till the morning? Or do we wait till Monday if it's a Friday? That's my first question. That I want answers to that. And when people say, well, it depends, okay, we're going to have a problem. There's sooner or later, there'll be a problem. So I just preach this constantly. There's got to be immediate response until you know what you got. So if you hit a stop sign, it's probably not a big deal, right? You hit a guardrail, probably not a big deal. But you hit a car with 3 occupants, 1 occupant, okay, that's a big deal, irregardless of liability. That's a big deal. So the first thing I like to know, the loss reporting process in a lot of detail. Who's taking the loss notice? What information are they capturing? Because all too often we are in the industry relying. So when the loss report comes from the driver into safety, for example, and the driver reporting it timely is a whole nother subject. I won't go down that road. But when the driver reports it in, what happens too many times is the person on the receiving end in the safety department will accept only what the driver deems important. That's a mistake for a couple of reasons. One is the driver will say, hey, I scratched the car, or I got hit, nothing to worry about here, nothing to see. And they give they share minimal information. Wrong. I like to say, unless you have you being somebody in safety or claims, unless you have an up to date, state of the art crystal ball, of course nobody has one of those, that you can predict the future, then we've got to be on our toes and ready to rock and roll every single time, because you really don't know what that accident is about. If the driver calls in and is kind of blasé and says, hey, somebody came into my lane. Okay, you want to believe them, but you really got to take that with a grain of salt. So that's how I start to think about a well-handled claim and the answers that I'm looking for at the very beginning.
So a lot of the of when we talk about old and new tactics, if I'm listening to you so far, the first tactic is response, the second is work, and the third is you got to be organized. I mean, so those are age-old thought processes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, I love how you termed it the old and the new, because there are some practices that can't go away. You got to work the file. You can't take things for granted, because you don't want to be blindsided 6 months down the road. For example, the example I gave, the driver calls in and says, hey, somebody came into my lane. Well, what do we know right off the bat? It's a moving vehicle accident. Someone came into my lane. So, and that other car was not autonomous, I would assume. Somebody was driving it. There's at least one occupant. So that one occupant, to me, represents a lot of potential. So we got to have our ducks in a row and be organized enough to respond right away, get their information. Hopefully the driver got it. But even if not, we have to have methods to reach that person immediately, professionally and politely, to get their version. Because if their version does not align with our driver, we're going to have a problem. That other party may easily say, well, yeah, your driver came into me and I thought I was going to die, and da. Gee, that's not what our driver said. Do we have dash cam, first of all, to corroborate our driver? Maybe we don't. Now we're going to have kind of a word versus word, unless we have a witness, unless we have some other evidence that backs up our driver, right? So there's the old, the tried and true, work the file, reach people, document. And then I'll fast forward to the new, which we talk here about science a lot. And when there's a low speed collision and people start talking various and sundry injuries, we use science to debunk that. And we start talking that with plaintiff counsel like on day one, you know, because we don't want that case to get out of control. We don't want plaintiff counsel thinking, well, I'm going to rack up the medical for about a year and a half and I'll dump 250,000 in meds on them. And then here's my $1.5 million demand. So we want to try to cut that off at the pass as best we can. There's no silver bullet, but back to auditing files, which I still do a lot of. If I'm looking at a case at 2 years old, it's 2 years old and it got out of control, I'm asking, in my mind, I'm thinking, what did we do in the first 30, 60 days? Did we make assumptions that, oh, this isn't a bad case? Because if that's what we did, we can't do that anymore. We just can't. Lawyers are too smart.
Using science and tools that are readily available at the beginning of the life of a claim impacts the life of the claim's financial cost.
Yeah, it can. There's no guarantees, right?
There's no guarantee. But if
Right.
it didn't, as a rule, we wouldn't worry with what you're saying.
Right. So
Yeah.
again, looking at a claim file, so the case is out of control. Let's say, we're a year and a half in, reserve of $500,000, and the property damage is $1,000. That's out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
How did it get to that? So I start looking at what did we do? What could we have done to try to circumvent this? Did we do anything? Because sometimes what I see is we're sitting back calling plaintiff counsel every 30 days and saying, hey, is your client done treating? When are you going to send us a demand? Wrong thing to do. Wrong thing to do.
Hey, do us a favor. Give us an example of a claim where your science says this injury really could not have occurred because of the accident that I'm looking at.
I'll give you two real quick.
Okay.
Side swipe in Atlanta, Georgia. 2 women are in the car. We're at fault. My client's at fault. And in a nanosecond, they're represented. Okay, we got a letter of rep. And this only took time. It didn't take a nickel. But so we take the photograph of the car, side of the car, because we had it appraised. So now we have a side shot of the damage. And I have to say, when there's a side swipe, that impact, the delta V, the forces imparted onto the occupant are not great. Did they feel it? Yeah, probably a little bit. Are they injured? Probably not. Probably not. But you're going to pay something, right? You're going to pay unless people say, look, I'm not injured. So that recorded statement is vital. I should have said that. There's no better method or tactic to avoid a BI than quickly reaching people professionally, politely, as I said, to hear them say, no, I was not injured. I'm fine. Thank you. And you ask them again. And, it's confirmed. That's a digital recording, carries a whole lot of weight. So Atlanta side swipe represented. So we send the photo of the damage to the attorney, not attached to the email, but embedded in the body of the email, and said to him to the effect, look, our belief is that it's highly unlikely, because I'm not an engineer, it's highly unlikely that an injury could have resulted, et cetera, et cetera. Within 2 hours of sending that, we got a call from plaintiff counsel who said, I'm dropping this case. And that's a home run. We then got on the phone and settled those cases directly for a nominal sum. Another example is a rear end of a truck. I'm going to say moderate, but what you got to know is the force to the back of a truck. That energy has to travel from the back of the truck through the 53-foot trailer and the cargo that was on it, 30 pounds of sugar or whatever, 30,000 pounds of sugar. through the articulated portion of the truck, which is the fifth wheel, into the cab. That's a lot for the energy to travel. And the further it goes, it dissipates. But this guy said he had cervical neck injury, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Really outrageous statements. So we do what we do. You know, the attorney wouldn't listen to reason. We do what we do, and stupid demand. And then we presented to him, hey, as a matter of fact, we met with him. We literally went in his office, laid everything out, and said, this is how we see it, counselor. What do you want to do? And that that case settled for well under $50,000. Clear liability case. And by the way, the work comp carrier was racking up their bills, and we paid zero on the work comp lien because we had information that said, look, could not have happened that way, guys. We're not paying it. So that takes a little bit of intestinal fortitude, but it can work. Not all the time, but it can work. Yeah.
Well, Lib, getting to know you as I have, your passion and your expertise are rivaled maybe only by your opinionated nature with regard to the things that can be prevented, but we are not preventing as an industry. So this claims curriculum that you're developing at MCIF is going to have tremendously fabulous impact for our little trucking insurance industry over a long period of time. It's very exciting, and we could talk a long time about that. But to get back to the point of being opinionated, I know you're opinionated about litigation and about the attorneys that have to become involved when a case is litigated. What do we do? We're in a diseased society with regard to this issue. How do we handle it? How do we improve our position?
If I could cast a magic wand for our industry, and I can't, but if I could, I would say every claim organization should have as their litigation management strategy, because we all have them written, do this, don't do that kind of thing. Step number one, it should all be the same. Step number one, do everything within your power to avoid litigation, everything within reason to avoid litigation. And step number two, do everything within your power, within reason, to avoid needing a lawyer. And I say that to my friends. I think you've heard me say that. Then these lawyers are friends of mine. I've known them for many years. They've handled cases for me. But I say to them, look, if we can be quick and smart, fair, and we get a case done and we don't need you, I'm happy. I am. The cases we can't resolve, okay. If the lawsuit's filed and we have no control over that, plaintiff counsel can file anytime they want, because we're in America. Okay, then we need defense counsel. Although, you call and get an extension and maybe you can work it out. That you got to try to do that. But, litigation is really, really expensive. And it's really, really time consuming for our customers, the safety directors in particular, and the CFOs and the presidents. I did a presentation one time where I superimposed the president of the trucking company onto an image where somebody was being dragged through the mud, because that's what litigation is. If somebody sued John Love, they may ask, hey, John, we want your report cards from grade school, every grade, 1 through 8. What the heck for? They're just dragging you through the mud.
You don't want mine.
Pardon?
You don't want mine.
No, mine either. But, back to urgency. We got to get on these cases, see what we got, make an assessment, and be aggressive with our approach, not sit back, not wait and ask for a demand, and, look these plaintiff attorneys in the eye and say, didn't happen that way. And we're here to prove it. Let's talk, All
right, Lib, we're going to wrap this up by taking the last point and tying it to the first point. I'm going to put you right on the spot here. The litigated losses that you've looked at, all of them in your life, however many there are, all the claims you've looked at that weren't handled properly from the beginning, not aggressively, not with proper outreach, not with working the loss, not with good organizational skill, what is the correlation between the litigated loss and the fact that the claim was not handled well to start with? What percentage of these losses could go away? These litigated cases. What percentage of them could go away?
So if I look at 100 litigated cases, I think what you're asking me, if I look at 100 litigated cases, what percentage of that 100 we could have avoided litigation if we did some proper aggressive things?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the listeners are going to say, well, venue matters, but I think we have to be quick everywhere. I would say 40%.
Yeah, but see, that's the point. It's not one loss out of 100.
No.
And pretend that every loss was the same financial impact. Every loss cost $1.
Mm-hmm.
So out of the $100, it's not $1 that you're talking about. It's maybe $40, and maybe it's 50 cents on the dollar. So maybe it's only $20. But out of the $100, then maybe we're saving $20. And if you just add billions to it, that's about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, and you really are. So, this is why I'm going to tell you, when this claims curriculum gets rolling, buddy, you're going to see a change, a positive impact in the trucking insurance industry from what we're able to espouse, because you're espousing the right things, and we're grateful to you for your time
thank you.
and expertise. We really are.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you for this time today, John, and we'll see you soon.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.